So this video is a little appetizer about navigating the HTML tree. So I will introduce 3 ways of navigating the HTML tree, and then in the next video we will focus on one of these ways. So let's get started. So how do we find our way around the HTML tree? So we want to navigate this HTML tree because in the HTML we find the information that we are interested in. But how can we locate this information? So I will introduce 3 ways of locating this information. The first one is regex, and in regex we exploit string patterns in the HTML using this regular expression. So regex is just short for regular expressions. So I will talk a little bit more about that in a minute. So the second way is a CSS selector. And with a CSS selector, we can specify paths in the HTML tree. And I will also talk more about that. And the third one, and the one we will focus our attention on in the exercises, is Beautiful Soup, which is a package in Python that makes it very easy to navigate the HTML tree and also extract the information that we are interested in. But first, regex. What is regex? So regular expressions are used to define a search pattern in text. So suppose we want to search for all links in an HTML tree. So to search for all links, we can define a search pattern in regex that searches for example, www dot, and that way finding all URL links. Yes. So one thing to notice is that regex only works on text strings. So we need to convert our HTML tree into one large string before we can use regular expressions on it. And you will learn much more about regex in session 8, so I will not talk any more about regex right now. The second way of navigating HTML tree is CSS selectors. So yeah, so CSS selector is used to select the HTML elements. So it will seem very similar to what we will use Beautiful Soup for, but a CSS selector can be used when we cannot rely on class or ID attributes. For example, if we are dealing with a very messy HTML. So you can use a CSS selector to define a unique path to an element in the HTML code, or multiple elements that have the same characteristics in the HTML. And one nice way to use the CSS selector is to download one as a Google Chrome extension, and we can use the selector gadget. You can download that, and I will show you how to use it now. As an example of how to use a CSS selector, I've gone to DR.dk, which is the Danish public news organization. Yeah, and I've gone to the international news in Denmark. So I have already downloaded the CSS selector that I recommended you to download, and you can find it up here in Google Chrome extensions and click on Selector Gadget. So when I click on that, you can see this new bar down here, which is the Selector Gadget. And I can try to go through different elements on the website, and you can see that the Selector Gadget highlights these elements. So if I try to go down to the first article down here and click, you can then see that the Selector Gadget finds the path to these types of elements on the website. And you can see that there are actually 144 types of the same element that this path points to. So we don't get a unique path to one element, but we kind of see that it points to the titles of each article. So we're gonna use this path back in our Jupyter Notebook. So one last thing I would like to mention here about this CSS selector is that you can click on the question mark, and then you can read a little bit more on how to use this CSS selector. But let's get back to the Jupyter Notebook. So now we have found the path to each title of the articles on DRDK, and now we want to use this path. So the beautiful soup package that I mentioned earlier, it also has a built-in CSS selector that we are going to use. So the CSS selector is just this function.select. So we're just going to use the function.select. And first, we are going to take the link to the website. So that is dr.dk, and then it's international news. We're going to request the content from this website, as we have done before. And then we are going to make a beautiful soup object, which is what we are called soup. And we make this beautiful soup object by taking the HTML content of our response up here. So that is what we do here. And we specify our HTML parser here. So we use the HTML parser called LXML. So you don't need to think too much about that, but that is what that is the parser that we use. So when we have this beautiful soup object, we can use our CSS selector on that. And that's actually very straightforward. We use our path, our CSS selector. We write it in here, and as an example, I have just chosen the first title of all the articles that we find using this method, and then I have just chosen the text of this title, and you can see that the output is in the bottom here. So that is an example of how to use the CSS selector to navigate the HTML tree and find the information that you're interested on the page. So we will use the CSS selector in different kind of examples also in the next session. A third way to parse your HTML tree is with Beautiful Soup. And we have already used Beautiful Soup as a CSS selector, but now we are going to use it as with its own structure. where it exploits the structure of tags and attributes in this HTML. So we can use Beautiful Soup to search for elements in the HTML tree by tag name or by attributes, and both. And we can iterate through these elements, and we can go upwards or sideways or down this HTML tree with using Beautiful Soup. So and furthermore, we can use Beautiful Soup to extract the text, the information that we can actually see on the website, and that is very easy to do using Beautiful Soup. So in the next video and in the exercises, you will spend a lot of more time using the Beautiful Soup. So just go to the next video and